Michael Pramawat is playing this Comfey Sableye deck. I mean, this is the deck he found comfort in. Top 4 at the World Championships playing this same engine. It is a little bit different, playing sort of a box-style deck up against Charizard. This isn't a matchup we see a lot. How do you feel about these two decks clashing at each other?
So they feel honestly like polar opposites. We have Charizard, the big setup stage 2 deck that has a lot of HP, and then we have this other turbo version of the deck, low HP attackers, tries to go really hard, really fast. But I think Lost Box has builds up in power and gets progressively stronger as you get more cards in the Lost Zone, whereas Charizard can start off pretty slow, but then it gets progressively more powerful. So opposite ends here. I think Michael's best strategy is going to be to try and do as much damage, get a quick Sableye, get Greninja going. He's even running the canceling Cologne to cancel that mana fee, and then it's going to be up to Eli to stabilize and be able to deal with Michael's Pokemon.
Now, these decks sort of have different plans. I mean, for Charizard, there's a discussion going first, going second. What do you think of this matchup Charizard wants to do in terms of getting their game plan set up and, more importantly, starting the game first or second?
Oh, I definitely think, like, if Eli doesn't know what Michael is playing, definitely should be choosing second, and then once he finds out, which is now the case as both players are mulliganing, I think he would still choose to go second because it gives you a much higher chance of, like, having more than one Pokemon on the board, having the Charmanders, the Pidgeys, having the Rotom to help you set up, especially against a deck that probably doesn't play any hand disruption or very little.
We'll see this setup here. Like you pointed out, that Canceling Cologne is a big card. Another card I see that's popping out as I look at Michael's list is the Mew EX. How does that find usage in this matchup?
I mean, towards the late game, of course, Lost Box is based on single prize Pokemon, or you can control when you place down those V Pokemon like Raikou or Drapion or Dragonite. So if you're able to save that Mew towards the very end, and Charizard has taken 5 prizes already, you're able to copy their own attack with Genome Hacking and take them down by dealing 330 damage. I think that's going to be the best use of the Mew EX here.
So Eli did opt to go second, so that's exactly, I think, well, we sort of had this discussion. It's how you make sure you're consistent, right? You've got the Battle Pass, you've got the Arven to find the Battle Pass, plenty of different options. We'll see the prize cards here for both players. Looking out for any key pieces. There is a few basic Pokemon in the prizes for Michael, mainly that Lost Mine Sableye and the Dragonite. Nothing too relevant, though. I think we're going to have a good game between both these competitors.
Indeed, I agree. That Sableye could be a little problematic. Michael does play a copy of Hisuian Heavy Ball and also only plays one copy of Sableye, which I think is very interesting. And I think that shows respect to Jirachi. Jirachi has been more and more popular as we advance in this Paradox Rift metagame. And Sableye is very good, right? But it's less good than it used to be.
It's really funny looking at the list breakdown because, of course, Michael is playing the 4 Comfey and then one of every other Pokemon in the deck.
Indeed, and it gives him a lot of options, but can be a little problematic if you run into some issues with your pricing the right attacker you need. Speaking of.
Yeah, I mean, the Hisuian Heavy Ball here is good, but I actually don't think there's much else going on for Pramawat in this hand. Yeah, wow, just 3 or 4 switching cards, lost Vacuum, and I mean, does have information to know that, look, this Comfey is going to be safe, right? Charizard can't deal 70 damage to my Comfey on turn 1, but I mean, this is where you want to be popping off. You want to be playing Battle Pass, getting things down, and this just feels extremely subpar, especially in a matchup where I've got a few red flags, especially when your opponent's playing Jirachi and Manaphy.
Now, very interesting decision by Michael to grab the Sableye and not the Dragonite. I feel like Dragonite is probably one of your best like heavy hitters against Charizard, and it opens up the possibility for you to top deck a Forest Seal Stone to get out of this less than ideal situation, which Michael does have the Mew EX in hand, but that's not possible with the Mew EX. It's not a V Pokemon.
Well, an excellent start here for Eli, finding the Battle VIP Pass and a tool card off of the Arven. It is that beautiful stamped play Pokemon, Arven. I haven't had the chance to collect them. I know you're sort of building your collection up slowly.
I am, yeah. I really like these prize pack holo cards, especially the newer ones that have the swirl and the retro sort of looking foil. So I'm a big fan of those for sure.
Rotom getting benched. It will be the choice, and we are going to see the Forest Seal Stone come down. Could this signal an early usage? And sort of having low amounts of basic Pokemon, it feels like you have no choice because of how dangerous this Lost Zone deck can be when it's very capable of hitting 7 cards in the Lost Zone.
Indeed. Now, imagine, though, if Eli had chosen to go first. He probably would have seen an attached pass or even just a pass with the Manaphy. So this is why Charizard really enjoys going second. That opens up the possibility of having Battle VIP pass or playing an Arvin. So essentially, you're up to 8 Battle VIP passes or 8 ways to get Battle VIP pass. And then if you factor in Luminion, which can search for Arvin, then every Ultra Ball becomes an out. So really good play from Eli and really powerful start.
So this is where it gets really tough, is the bench space in this matchup, especially if you're going to put Rotom into play. I mean, of course, Mew is a solid card. Mew grabs you trainers, but I don't know if the space exists here because with only 1 bench slot left, if you're going to want to establish 2 Charizard EX, your Jirachi or your second Pidgeot potential doesn't exist.
Indeed, I'm very surprised. Only grabbing 1 Pokemon off that second Battle VIP pass, not establishing that extra Charmander.
No, it was the 2. So the Rotom and the Charmander got benched off the first, and then the second one was
Pidgey
for the
and
Pidgey.
Mew.
And
Sorry,
the Mew,
I
yeah.
meant, okay,
No worries, no
you're
worries.
right. Then I meant like a second Charmander. I really would have liked to see a second Charmander because you're hoping to get, I mean, either a rare candy or a Battle VIP pass here once again. Odds are much lower now that you've used 2. I mean, I guess you can establish the Charmander with the level ball, but yeah, that Mew is a powerful card, right? Don't get me wrong, but I feel like it was a little unnecessary at this point.
There is the Battle VIP pass. I think saving the level is... I feel like you can just play the level ball down and guarantee yourself the Ultra Ball for next turn. You are going to be getting 3 cards, and you do have the rare candy already, so not a bad play at all. We'll see the second Charmander come down, I'm sure, off of this level ball, but I mean, it's sort of the same sentiment with Mew and Gardevoir, right? Before Jirachi was a card, and even with Jirachi here, you play something like Escape Rope against the Lost Zone matchup, and I mean, after turn 1, you really don't want the Mew in play. I mean, of course, you could occasionally charge it up with the Charizard EX's ability to put energy onto it, but it's a 60 HP Pokemon. It clogs the bench space up, and it could be knocked out at almost any point.
Yeah, it's especially that low HP what ends up becoming a very big liability. And of course, Mew's a fantastic card, but if you can set up without using Mew, that's even better, right? Now, I will say Michael's start wasn't too great or too powerful with a single Flower Select, and it's not looking great, but in order for that single Charmander to, or any Charmander to go down, Michael will need a lot.
This hand is, I mean, I don't even know how you play the... okay, so the only thing that really thinks is you can play this entire hand down and then use Restart on Mew, but it would be at the cost of getting rid of 3 switching cards, and we are going to see the Lost Vacuum get played, and I think this is what you have to do here. You've got no other option, but it feels so bad to just essentially throw these resources away. 4 switching cards are going to go down.
Yeah, Michael does play 8, but losing half of them on your second turn with no benefit, right? We're not getting extra Flower Select. We're not getting any Tachyon bits, clearly. So, yeah, not ideal. But it's like, what good are these switching cards if you don't do this? And then, yeah, you just draw pass, and end up losing. Right? That could be very impactful. However, Eli does play a copy of Lost Stadium and Professor Turo's scenario, so he can make the bench space for Jirachi if he needs it.
And this is an excellent hand. Rare Candy Pidgeot can use Quick Search, find Rare Candy, and then play this Ultra Ball or the Arvin. No need to do anything else. And I mean, I think if you're Michael, you might as well just play out this next turn, see your flower selecting. But if there's not much else there, I mean, this is a match you cannot tie. And we're already almost 10 minutes through. You've got to play long games. This Lost Zone deck is not a deck that goes fast. It has long turns where you're constantly thinking, you're constantly putting together these combo pieces, these combo turns. As Eli does find himself the Ultra Ball, the Rare Candy off the Quick Search, and it will be Charizard EX. I feel like there's 5 different versions of this Charizard that I've seen. I think there are actually exactly 5, and then we're going to see 2 more come in the next set.
Yeah, the shiny ones. Now, no friendship, Iono, from Eli to Michael, right? We're just going to see Eli start being the aggressor, right? And usually it's not the stage 2 setup deck that is the aggressor in this matchup. So conceding definitely should be on Michael's mind. And as you mentioned, right, if Michael isn't able to like rush the win quite quickly, the matchup is very grindy, right? Getting past those humongous HP, that 330, it's the highest amount of HP that we have legal in the game right now.
And yeah, Michael
Yep.
says, I'm not winning this game. I see what your deck can do. Let me see if my deck can do what I wanted to do next game. I feel like every match we've got, somebody is not doing something well. All right, I'm gonna be devil's advocate now for Lost Zone as a deck. So maybe that one's a little bit more believable than Gardevoir is in terms of like,
Yeah,
wow, this deck
fair.
doesn't set up. I mean, I always say this for some of the decks. Like, I feel like when you play a deck to a tournament, you kind of sign a non-real contract that says, look, if I dead draw, if I can't draw, I kind of understand this is what my deck is supposed to do. Sometimes it doesn't do that.
Yeah, indeed, and that applies to every deck, right? As you mentioned, it's an unwritten, unspoken rule for every deck. It's like you try to make them as consistent as possible, but you have to balance that with utility, right? You can't have all consistency cards and not have techie variability options that give you adaptability for different situations. And Michael's deck is doing exactly that, right? It has Sableye, Mew, Greninja, Cramorant, Raikou, Drapion, Dragonite, trying to cover all the bases, but in trying to cover all of that, sometimes these sort of hands can happen. And I guess it's not as turbo as I thought it was originally. There's 2 Lost Vacuums and 2 Pokestops, which usually you can even see up to 4 of each of those.
Yeah, sort of this middle ground, playing lots of great coverage, and I mean, it's a consistent engine when it sets up, when it's playing full risk. Price is not too bad. We do immediately see a couple of those Fire Energy in the prize cards, as well as 2 of those Charizard EX. Now, one is towards the bottom, so it's not as bad, but if for some reason you have to pitch one away early on, and it looks like Michael actually chose to go second, wants to try and slow down Eli's start by shutting off more options. This is going to be a big 6 cards. Is there a battle pass? No. There may not be any way to get Charmander. There isn't. There's no way to get Charmander or Pidgey down this turn.
And now you have 4 completely useless Battle VIP Pass cards in your deck. This is one of the worst feelings, and we're seeing the other side. Yeah, we have Colress, Battle VIP Pass, and a very powerful start, most likely for Michael. So I think we might see, like, I would not be surprised if we are in Game 3 within the next 3 minutes.
It's deja vu, Pablo.
It's deja vu,
We're back to our
But,
round
I mean,
6.
if that's going to happen, though, we're in for a treat in Game 3.
If it's going to be a true deja vu, right?
Yeah.
We get 2 sort of non-games into a Game 3 as, yeah, that's it. Just passing. And that's just the worst feeling, right? You do nothing, and the first card your opponent's like, yeah, I have Battle Pass. But I feel like Michael deserves that after how his start went in Game 1.
We're seeing the exact opposite of Game 1. And, I mean, the one good quotation marks thing going for Eli is that he does have the Mana Fiend play, which means he can't be rushed by a Greninja, and that means he won't lose on the first turn if Michael gets to 7 cards in the Lost Zone, but it probably means he's going to lose in the second turn.
So lots of choices off Battle Pass. I think probably Radiant Greninja Comfey is immediately with 6'd out. You just want to kind of draw as many cards as possible. With Colress already in hand, how would you really set your board up, especially to take advantage of Eli's slow start?
Yeah, I think Cramorant is definitely the go-to. If it's available, you just want to make sure you start getting ahead. Yeah, you know you're guaranteed at least 2 prize cards before even a Charizard hits the field. And based on Eli's even body language, you know things are not going great. So the faster you apply pressure, and with essentially the guaranteed Cramorant here, I think we're missing 1 switching card perhaps to pull it off, which is likely, but not quite there yet. I don't know if it's in the hand already, but that's a rough Colress experiment.
Yeah, I think you can maybe afford to get rid of one of the Colress and an energy, but it is just going to be 2 hitting the Lost Zone. As you can play this Nest Ball before using Flower Selecting, grab out the Radiant Greninja, and just give yourself a little bit more dig power to try and find this knockout on Mew.
Now, there are only 8 basic energies in the deck for Michael Pramawat, and 2 of them just hit the Lost Zone. So that leaves exactly 1 Lightning, 3 Water, and 2 Psychic available to win this game, which it's looking good, right? And he already has 2 of those in his hand to find 1 switching card, start applying pressure, but that's a rough decision to make.
Does find the escape rope, so it is a guaranteed cram hit, but I feel like you want to take this Mew out, right? It's the thing that's giving your opponent the most advantage. It will just be Battle VIP Pass hitting the Lost Zone. It was another Lightning Energy, so, I mean, of course, you want to play Battle Pass on turn 1, but not at the cost of shutting off Dragonite for the rest of the game.
And Raikou, indeed. Now, I guess there is merit to knocking out the Mana Fiend, I want to say, because if your opponent does top deck something, right, you can still give them the Mew, but this does open up a very easy Greninja attack onto the bench in case they manage to bench a Charmander.
And finding the, oh yeah, like you said, finding the switch cart, taking the knockout. I mean, what would you have done in that situation? Do you think with the option to just go after Mew is probably correct?
Yeah, because like you don't know if Ely isn't just holding a supporter, right? But if you knock out the Manaphy, then that leaves the Greninja threat very, very viable. And your hand is like has Colress's, you already have the Greninja down, you have the Comphase. I mean, you don't know that there's an Iono potentially coming down, but I don't know. I feel like in the long term, assuming your opponent has a chance at top decking something, I would have preferred to see the Manaphy go down.
Interesting to see the Super Rod put back the Mew and the Fire Energy. I mean, of course, you might want those cards later on, but I mean, with just 6 cards here and now your Battle Pass being unplayable, it feels like you want to just put as many cards in your deck that are Charmander and Pidgey as possible.
Indeed, really trying to maximize your chances of getting Charmander, and this is like, it's not super like reducing them, right? But it is a little bit, and you're definitely in a rough spot here.
Yeah, I guess you could just put the energy on this Manaphy, and then from there, putting the Mew back does give you yourself a potential option, but no, it looks like Lumineon will be the choice. Bench down, Luminous Sign used. I mean, Arven can grab a way to get some Pokemon out, but it's just not as strong as it would be going second to get essentially an extra Pokemon out for free with Battle VIP Pass.
Now, picture an Arven into a Level Ball plus 4 Seal Stone into double Charmander down. That's when you're hoping that Manaphy is not in play.
Yeah, it's one of the risks you have to take, so Ely at least having some sort of response. We talk about bench space. One thing that definitely doesn't want to be there is that Lumineon. Now, it will be able to use the Forest Seal Stone, so Level Ball plus the Forest Seal can find double Charmander, which puts you in a spot where hopefully next turn you can attack. But, I mean, even then, you've got to find yet another Arven, but even another Arven won't get you there because you got to find the Rare Candy piece plus the Ultra Ball as well, and Arven only gets you one of those 2 pieces.
Indeed, yeah, things are not looking great for Ely, but, I mean, he's stabilized, right? There's a guaranteed Charmander in play, unless Michael finds the Canceling Column. There is that possibility. He is holding a Forest Seal Stone. He does play the card, right, which that's a big card that is not commonly seen in Lost Box. It's more common in something like Chien Pao Excalibur, which that deck feels like it has all but disappeared at this point.
Lots has changed already. We're only a month or so into the format, and people are making some strong evolutions. I think the choice here for Ely is, where do you want to put this energy card? Do you just want to slowly power up Charmander? Do you want to maybe pivot out of this active spot? And it's just going to be the attachment, it looks like. But, wow, retreating into Lumineon V. Maybe I mean, you retreat to Lumineon V, you kind of are just asking for your opponent to take a free 2 prize cards on you with Raikou, it feels like. I don't know if you can make that sacrifice. Your opponent's essentially starting off with 3 free prize cards before you're even going to get going.
Indeed. I feel like Eli is putting all eggs in the Charizard basket, right? Like giving up on these 2 prizes and going Iono, hoping to find a Charizard. Not a big fan of losing this Charmander, but can't emphasize enough. If last turn we had played the Escape Rope and this Manaphy was not here, Michael Pramawat would be very close to achieving a double knockout on Charmander, and that should certainly immediately prompt the Game 3.
So the second Colress being played, Lost Vacuum and Comfey hitting the Lost Zone, keeping on to that Dragonite, plus ways to recover the energy cards. Now, if there is one more flower selecting, that will put Michael up to that first magic number of 7 cards in the Lost Zone. Does find the
I think he has all the pieces.
I think it's there.
Oh, no, wait. He just played Colress, right?
So he can flower selecting once with the Escape Rope. Yeah, so all the pieces are there. So he can, we'll watch him play it through, right? So one more flower selecting will put him to 7. He has the Super Rod in hand, so that can bring back these discarded energies, and there's yet to be an attachment yet, and there's 2 pivoting cards in this hand. So we'll see Michael play through this. Is going to go to 7 cards in the Lost Zone, keeping another Mirage Gate, and there is the Dragonite V in hand, so that can use the Forest Seal Stone. I think he's got everything he needs to get this big 2 prize knockout, and more importantly, just wipe all of Eli's attackers off the board turn 3.
But how do we bring the Manaphy to the active, though?
Oh,
that's the big...
That's the truth, right?
Yeah, because it used to be active. Already played Colress. It does have the boss in hand, but
true.
Unfortunately couldn't play that second support.
I'm so used to the Lost Zone deck being behind. I was like, yeah, you just grab Counter Catcher, right? And you're good. Sure. You got it. So
All right.
Not quite there.
Big Iono here. We need a rare candy Charizard for Eli. And that honestly could turn the tables around. Colress is at the bottom for Michael. We see a very underwhelming 4 cards, right? Sableye not available yet. Mirage Gate not super powerful. So
and
this could be problematic. And there's a Charizard.
Infernal Rain grabbing 3 fire energy out of the deck. This can allow the Lumineon to retreat to the bench and power up Charizard, ready to attack with Burning Darkness. And I think Eli's just kind of hoping at this point, if you're Michael, you maybe miss some Colress, maybe you don't have some attackers. We haven't really seen lots of Pokemon hit the bench so far, as Ultra Ball's getting rid of some useless cards, those Battle VIP
might
pass.
as well.
I mean, I think you probably at least want to get a Pidgey down, but the risk to benching Pidgey here is Eli is actually only running the 50 HP Pidgey. So because of that, Lost Mine can take a 2-prize knockout onto both of these Pokemon.
Yeah, Manaphy and Pidgey would be great targets if Michael can get to 10. He is close, but we do have the advantage of knowing that his hand is not very good. So this could be problematic. And then even if that happens, if Eli follows that up with an Iono, yeah, Michael's board is not looking too strong. And I really cannot emphasize how much I would have loved this Manaphy to go down in the very beginning.
Choices to reflect on for sure. And Michael does have a Super Rod, so what this can do is bring back the resources, but more importantly, also shuffle the deck. Put those Colrusses on the bottom, get them shuffled in, and these are energy cards, are fine pieces to find, especially if you have a Mirage Gate to potentially get these attackers available online.
Yeah, with that and the Raikou top deck, Michael actually has a decent chance of making something work here. Not going to bother powering up the Raikou, however, which I find very interesting. It's like Michael's only real legitimate attacker at this point in time. He might try to dig for the Sableye attack to pick up those 2 prizes that you mentioned, but I don't know. You're banking a lot on finding one of your 2 Colrusses.
Yeah, even one more Comfey and a few more Switch cards could technically get you there. You are 3 Flower Selectings away. Also, a card like Lost Vacuum. There is already one in the Lost Zone, but that's another thing that can get you there. Lots of cards, but like you said, we'll come down to these Flower Selectings. Yeah. What important cards are found?
Double Mirage Gate at the top. It's just, there's already 1 Comfey here, 1 Nest Ball as well, 2 Nest Balls prize. So finding that 3rd Comfey also already feels like a big, big difficult thing.
Cards being drawn, nothing though.
No.
Really not what you want to see. I mean, you can play these 2 Pokemon down. So technically we could see everything get played down. You could see the Escape Rope get played, bench these 2 Pokemon, Mirage Gate, and then restart to draw 2 cards.
2 cards.
But do you want to put these 2-prize Pokemon in play as that liability, though?
Probably not. Even putting 1 doesn't feel great. But, I mean, I feel like Michael's just going to power up the Raikou anyways. I really would have liked to see him do that instead of getting the energy on the Sableye. Because, like, it's so difficult at finding that 3rd Comfey. Finding Colress also doesn't feel great. There's no tools or stadiums to remove. Oh, no, there is a tool on the Lumineon to remove with...
Oh, okay. Eli sort of picked up the Lumineon at first, and I was like, are we really going this route? Is that what we're going to do? But
it is.
It is going to be switched in. And
I really would have liked to see the Manaphy go down.
Oh, wow, yeah. And because of this Mirage Gate, you can Raikou fleet-footed, draw a card, or rather use the restart first, draw a card with the Raikou, and
Why did he not play the Mirage Gate before? Does he not have?
Oh,
the lightning's there.
But he found another Super Rod off of the restart plus the fleet-footed, so the 2 pieces are there. So bringing up this Lumineon, I mean, even if you brought up Manaphy or Pidgey, there's really not a great attacker to use against it, but this is exactly what you want to be using for Raikou. Trading when you have the lead is exactly what you want to do as your game plan.
2 for 2 trade, that's good enough. Yeah, so that Manaphy should have been up there. Yeah, put your opponent down to 3 prizes instead of 2, and just has to deal with 1 Charizard. And that Mew, that Mew is definitely a big threat for this Charizard. If Eli is not able to boss KO it, could be really problematic and could even prompt Eli to not attack at a certain point in the game.
Lightning Rondo knocking out Lumineon. Michael Pramawat responding excellently here, going down to just 2 prize cards left. And Eli is left with a pretty subpar hand. Does have Boss's Orders in hand. Now, is this an opportunity where you play Boss? I mean, on the surface, it feels appealing, but I mean, what what do you? I mean, you could just knock this out and then maybe knock Mew out the following turn, but it is just going to be the aggressive play, actually going after Sableye. But I feel like some sort of double combination of Raikou attack into a Mew attack will be enough to take the knockout that way.
Yeah, the question is, can Michael find a way to power up that Mew with, I believe, 3 Mirage Gates gone now? That could be a big deal. And I do like knocking out the Sableye, because otherwise, Ely would have lost, right? That's the 120 HP exactly combined between Manaphy and Pidgey. One of the problems of playing the 50 HP Pidgey, in fact.
So we will see the escape rope played. Now, either this other Comfey could come up or the Mew could come up into the active, but it is actually just going to be the Raikou, so short stepping essentially to just draw a card right off the bat, and it is the Pokestop. So this is sort of one of the risks that you don't really necessarily know what stadium cards your opponent is playing right away. And while Pokestop would be great, the last thing you want to maybe see is a Lost City coming into play and ruining your plans.
Indeed, and that Manaphy will finally hit the discard pile like 5 turns too late. Oh my gosh, what a top deck. Iono off the top to put Michael down to 1 card.
So there is a world now where Ely can win this game. If Ely can find Rare Candy Pidgeot off of these 4 cards, you can knock out the Raikou, and then Pidgeot can search this Rare Candy. Oh, no. You do have Jirachi, though, so Jirachi
That's really good, yeah.
can stop the... I mean, you have to slam it down, right? I mean, there's no reason not to, but wow. I'm trying to keep a track on resources. So I know Michael was down at least 3 Mirage Gate.
Yeah, at least 3 Mirage Gates, 2 Super Arts as well. Does play 4 of each of those. So 2 Super Arts left. But like, even if you have an escape rope as Michael, what attacker do you use at this point?
I mean, Pramawat can be there to take the knockout. It feels like...
I mean, on the board, right?
I'm on the board, yeah.
Not a lot going for Michael. Does have the energy for Greninja, which is good. Looks at his last prize card with the Hisuian Heavy Ball, and does have the Mew-Yax to help him draw cards, which is pretty fantastic.
It's in there for genome hacking, but look, Restart can get in there too and deal some setup power.
Energies and a Comfey off the Restart. Now we see the concealed cards. Dragonite and something else.
It's Roxanne. Roxanne is actually a pretty good card to find here. We are going to just see the flower selecting out first. I think Colress might just be a little bit of a better option maybe for Michael. Wants to see what the potential looks like. Now, I believe the Cramorant is still available, so I just don't know how many escape rope have been played. I think 2 have hit the discard pile. I think there's still a couple more available. None in the Lost Zone, so we're actually going to take a look right now. 1, 2... Yeah, only 2 have been played, so this is one of the things you can do. Yeah, you can always escape rope into this Mew before you play the Roxanne. That way you have a guaranteed pivot.
Yeah.
But sometimes you might just want to go into the Comfey itself, so that energy is also a guaranteed pivot for that turn.
Now, this is going to be very interesting. This decision is clearly difficult for Michael. It was between Boss and Forest Seal Stone. Dang. If it had been any other card.
Yeah, but this is a great combination, I think, at this point, because you've got the Dragonite and the Forest Seal Stone, and then you can attach this energy to the active, and then from there, play Roxanne, and as long as you find either the Cramorant or the escape rope, you just
Forest Seal Stone
find the other out.
Yeah.
Oh, it looks like...
And not benching the Comfey either. Oh, well, yeah, that makes sense, because you need the space for Cramorant, but not attaching to the active. That I don't understand.
Unless we're missing something and Cramorant isn't in play. Maybe Cramorant is in the discard pile and it hasn't been brought back with Ordinary or with the Super Rod.
I could have sworn it was put back with the first Super Rod, though.
Well, we're going to find out pretty quickly here.
Yep.
So, Michael drawing up to 6. Ely just getting 2 cards, but... I mean, it could honestly be anybody's game, but these are big 6 cards here for Michael. Does have the luxury of Forest Seal Stone grabbing a guaranteed card out of the deck. Let's see what he can put together, and I think that should be it, honestly. There's plenty of outs there. If there is that last Forest Seal, or if there is that last Mirage Gate in the deck, is there? There is. So that will actually get there. The Mirage Gate can power up this Greninja in combination with the Super Rod. Yeah. And we'll finally see that Moonlight Shuriken take these 2 prizes. Only 1 needed, but it's good enough.
So good call on attaching the energy to the Greninja by Michael, relying on that instead of the Cramorant. As we see Ely pick up his cards, they have 23 minutes on the clock. I think both players are very aware of that, and they want to make sure that one of them makes it through today too.
All right, so game 1, Michael struggled to set up a little bit. Game 2, Eli struggled to set up. Hopefully, we'll have a great game 3 here in round 9 of San Antonio Regionals.
Yeah, we just want both decks to work, right? That shouldn't be too much to ask, but big props to Eli, right? It wasn't looking great, and that mana fee ended up being super, super clutch, staying alive, and that allowed him to slowly but surely pick it up. I really would have liked, though, that mana fee to be promoted instead of the Lumina. I feel like that would have changed the game completely.
Yeah, I mean, those 2 prizes, kind of just a gift to Michael at that point.
Yeah, look,
Seeing instead of that comes out now. The Pramawat was able to deal some damage to Charmander, was fed up early in the game, but it was that escape rope to pretty much put Michael on the early prizes at that point. Now, I think the way this game works out is, even if the mana fee doesn't get knocked out, right, there's just 1 less prize card that last turn, right? So Shuriken takes 2 prizes, and it's probably similar in terms of how the prize breakdown works out, but even just giving Michael that tempo, just establishing the Raikou as an attacker, it's something to reflect on.
Well, I mean, I don't think so, because you wouldn't have needed to bench the Jirachi to protect your Pidgey. Like, mana fee goes down, the bench is Lumineon and Pidgey. So then you don't need to bench Jirachi. They can use Sableye, knock out Pidgey, and that's fine. And Michael would have been at 3. And then where are the other 2 prizes coming from Michael? He needs another escape rope, but the Raikou's gone. The Sableye is not a threat, right? If the mana fee goes down, the Sableye is not a threat. He can save the boss's orders. Everything changes.
That's Pokemon for you. 1 change, and it's a whole different game. So, all right, we're getting into game 3 here. Eli will have the opportunity to go second. We haven't really seen him be able to fully develop into this matchup at this point. What do you think his ideal board should look like in this game 3 to get himself into day 2?
I mean, I would imagine the smallest bench possible that includes 2 Charizard EXs. Yeah, whether that includes a Pidgey or not, like, that's a luxury, I feel, but getting 2 Charizard EXs is the dream, because that's going to be really difficult for Michael to push through, especially if Eli is able to use Lost City to get rid of the Dragonite permanently, get rid of the Raikou permanently, even the Mew, if that ends up happening. So I think that would be the ideal for Eli.
330 HP as a 2-prize Pokemon. That's a big thing to overcome, especially when your only V Pokemon that can deal big damage are pretty low in terms of HP. We're just kind of seeing again some delayed time. I mean, Michael's going to get some more cards, is going first to start things out, and you got to see it in the bottom of the camera here, just hovering those 2 battle VIP passes in the front saying, I'm ready to go. I've got my whole bench set up, and you're going to have to stop me if I'm going to get this train up and rolling.
Yeah, so we know Michael's going to have a very threatening looking board by his second turn, possibly threatening Greninja, possibly threatening a big Dragonite KO or something along those lines. Can Eli find that crucial turn 1 Arven? I feel like Charizard is make or break with a turn 1 Arven. That just sets you up so nice, or you don't find it and you're in trouble. We do see a Battle VIP pass, we do see a Charmander, a Nest Ball as well, I mean a Level Ball as well, so not bad. Yeah, not bad for Eli as well.
Ooh, that Mew is in the prize cards. Dragonite and Raikou both in the prizes for Michael. Oh, that's not what you want to see at all.
That's not what you want to see. The boss's orders and the Iono for Eli could also be problematic, especially the Iono at the top. Yeah, denying resources of a very strong start from Lost Box and trying to slow them down with a low card Iono. That's very crucial, and that might not be possible as we do have we do have 3 Ionos, right? So timing the other 2 will be very crucial for Eli.
There's 5 Pokemon Search in this hand. Double Battle VIP Pass plus the Nest Ball. How do you develop your board here for Michael? Obviously, the first 3 choices seem pretty standard, right? You're going to want to grab the Greninja, the Comfey, and the Cramorant. And actually, that's all Michael wants at this point. Just putting those down into play, not grabbing a second Pokemon off that second Battle VIP Pass.
Indeed. No third Comfey hitting the board. I feel like Michael went through that. Oh, there's already a Comfey in the hand, I think. Might have been the Sableye. Michael did do that a little bit quickly, so I don't know if he's very aware of the prizes at that point, which I don't fault him for it, right? He knows he's low on time. Both players want to make it to day 2. That could come back to bite him if he tries to make a play based around Forest Seal Stone or something along those lines.
So here are the flower selectings. Doesn't have Colress yet in hand, and I mean, this is sort of a little bit of a situation where you got to think, what switching cards do I really want at this point? I would actually like to see this Comfey get benched and just get an extra card in the Lost Zone, and you've got a plethora of switching cards in your hand. Might as well use them, bank them in for an extra card drawn and an extra card in the Lost Zone.
The 3 cards in the lost zone means attacking with Gremlin's going to be pretty simple, and possibly, like, you've looked at the top 8 cards so far with Greninja and Triple Comfy, so you know you have to be close to a Colress, right?
And an excellent start here for Ely. Battle of the IP Pass and the Arvin. This will fill up the entire bench if he so chooses to. And again, going for that Rotom, just like he did in Game 1, values the instant charge to get this hand set up to get into multiple Rare Candy Stage 2s on the following turn.
This has to feel good for both players, you know? Like, maybe Michael would have loved to go second, but he has a full board. He's probably very close to a Colress. Ely has a full board, has everything he would possibly want pretty set up. I guess maybe except the Mew, right? That's a big card that he would like to have. But you have the Rotom, you have your Forest Seal Stone. I think you're feeling pretty good. And you don't even have to play down the Forest Seal Stone because you know hand attack is probably non-existent in Michael's deck, and the one Roxanne just hit the Lost Zone as well.
Building it up, getting things set up. We'll see definitely another Charmander, and with how Eli's been playing, I think Pidgey will come down too. And it is a luxury, like you said, but hey, if you can get it established, it guarantees those boss's orders, those setups for the following turn.
Certainly can't afford it with this sort of start, right? Why not? And it is a liability, right? It can be picked off by the Raikou, but if they're doing that, that probably means your Charizard survives. So as long as the price trade-off works out in your favor, it should be fine to establish. And it just gives you so much control, right? You know there's no path to a peak. You're going to be able to find any card you need every single turn.
So it will be those two. Can end this turn off with an instant charge, draw a few more additional cards, and get ready for that following turn to put Rare Candy Charizard into play and start using Burning Darkness for hopefully the rest of the game.
Now, this Charmander, the Bleeding Destruction attack, not very relevant, but it can be, not in this matchup, but it can be a very nice way against the path to a peak. But the 70 HP is so crucial to combat those Sableye KOs.
Interesting choice here for Pramawat. What you keep here. Now, I think Palpad is a great card later on, but Mirage Gate, just you need to constantly be pumping big amounts of damage into this Charizard. But I think Michael just valuing having those Colress later on, and will be one less Mirage Gate available. Interesting to see that Concealed Cards wasn't used before Flower Selecting.
Yep.
And does now have the Forest Steel Stone. But there's not a great Pokemon that you want to see. And we're actually just going to see Boss's Orders bring up the Pidgey. What do you think about this play, Pablo?
I really like it. I think Michael understands the powerfulness, the potential of having an Iono when you need it, a Boss's Orders when you need it. So I really like this one, Michael. It does mean using Boss's Orders, again, will be pretty difficult, despite the Palpad. But I really like this, yeah, because you know you're going to have to deal with Charizards regardless, but limiting the Pidgeot might limit either Eli's disruption or Eli's possibilities at setting up 2 back-to-back Charizard EXs.
Please make those preparations.
Eli starting things out with an Ultra Ball, already has Rare Candy in hand, plus even Level Ball to evolve into something like the Charmeleon to get that out into play.
Yeah, I think he has 3 Ultra Balls in his hand along with both Level Balls, so a lot of Pokemon Search readily available, already their Rare Candy as well. So that Rotom, yeah, that Rotom V really pulled through for Eli.
Checking the deck. With those multiple Level Ball, can even put something like another Pidgey into play, but you gotta kind of be careful at this board because the later it gets on, even as soon as next turn with something like a Lost Vacuum, Michael can get off a Lost Mine attack and take multiple prizes.
Now, Burning Darkness can 1-KO everything on Michael's board. The only Pokemon that can survive is Dragonite V, right? Which I think, as Michael, that would be the dream, right? You follow this Cramorant attack with a powering up your Dragonite V, hitting into a Charizard, and the Dragonite not going down. But unfortunately for Michael, hasn't found a Colress, and the Dragonite is priced as well. So has to rely on that Heavy Ball to do the potential best possible play.
This is excellent, though, for Eli. Doesn't even have to use the Forest Seal Stone. I don't even know if I would play it down here, but what card does Eli value having? Hasn't played a supporter card yet for turn. Is this where you just go on the Disruption Offensive and find Iono? And that will be the choice here for Eli.
I'm not a big fan of this Iono. I feel like it's a little too early, and like you don't know exactly that your opponent doesn't have Colress, right? But I don't know. I feel like it would have been a little bit more impactful later down the line. 5 cards is still a very healthy amount, right? When it starts going down to 4, 3, even 2, I I think that's where it's most impactful. So I really would have preferred to just keep the Force Seal Stone, maybe use that to set up Pidgeot later down the line.
And it will be a counter catcher, most likely targeting that Radiant Greninja, it looks like. I mean, at this point, 3 Comfey in play, really you're going to use a max of 2 Flower Selectings every turn, and I think that's just the decision here. I'm not even opposed to just getting the Cramorant out of play, because at least that way it's just good enough to set math up, but we will just see the counter catcher get played. Iono is used, maybe a resource that could have been held for later on in the game, especially if these V Pokemon or even Mew EX have to come down to the bench.
Yeah, I think limiting Michael's attacking options, like forcing him to find a new attacker, right? Now, Michael doesn't need to even find a Colress to establish another threat. And that 110 sets up the Charizard EX very nicely to be picked off by a Dragonite V eventually. So, yeah, wholeheartedly think holding on to that counter catcher might have been a better option here.
So Eli responding, taking a prize card, evening things up at 5. So Michael has yet to find Colress here. We'll see 2 cards off of the concealed cards, and even with all those cards at the bottom, still no Colress. There's none in the prize cards. It's just unable to find it. I think that with how likely you are to draw in a Colress here, I don't even think you use any Nest Ball, and yeah, exactly that. Just going to Flower Selecting
there it is.
and Pointing Case. Yeah, Lightning Energy is not great to have in the Lost Zone, but it's at the cost of getting the cards off Colress.
Finally get a Colress, find another Colress off of that, which is pretty fantastic.
As a reminder, if you are waiting
Losing
for standings,
another energy
only 2
and a
places
Nest
to
Ball.
find
That
the
energy
season.
can be tough, but you can't
The
afford to
first
lose the
will be
Sableye.
updated to events
There's no
website.
there's no Jirachi right now, so
second will
Michael
be
could potentially
a
get a
personal
2-price turn if he has the right combination of resources by picking off both the Manaphy and the Pidgey. The total adds up perfectly for Lost Mine.
We were at 4 cards to start, and with 2 Flower Selectings plus the Lost Vacuum and Colress, we're at the exact magic 10 number, and with those selections, we're Lost Vacuum, Sableye, and Pokestop off of that Colress's experiment.
Now, I think we are short 1 switching effect, or maybe a couple. No, 1 switching effect, because we do have the, and there it is. Yeah, but
Give me the triple. Give me the triple
Yeah.
off the spin. Even finds Battle
Even
Pass, which is a great card to
for
just
Lost
throw
Vacuum.
the Lost
Yeah,
Vacuum.
perfect. Yeah, so Michael should have access to 10 cards in the Lost Zone and will be able to get a 2-price turn now. This does make Charizard EX more powerful, but this is exactly why holding off on the Iono. If you Iono Michael now down to 3 cards, that's a lot more impactful than Iono to 5.
Super Rod will put back the Psychic Energy into the deck, and Mirage Gate can power up the Sableye. Can also put an energy onto the Comfey to just get an extra card off Flower Selecting. Would you like to see that there, or rather onto something like the Radiant Greninja instead?
No, he still needs the energy on the Comfey. He
Oh,
needs to
'cause we're
retreat
at-
and
Oh,
and
we
then
need
switch
one
card.
more,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Yeah,
he
correct.
needs one more.
Okay.
So yeah, it has to go on the Comfey. Otherwise, yeah, onto the. I mean, leaving it as a pivot on a Comfey always good, or potentially establishing the Greninja as Michael is holding the Canceling Cologne in. Michael was streamed playing a similar version of this deck not too long ago, and he was able to defeat Charizard. How? By just completely ignoring the Charizard and going after the bench Pokemon. Now, I do have to wonder, though, can Michael prefer to take down the Charmeleon? Is that ever an option, Ethan?
It's tough. I think that you just take the prizes
Nope.
while they're here and
All
just
right.
go for it. I mean, at this point, you're 3 away. The one thing that concerns me from this turn, though, is all of your stadium bumps are gone. And we know Eli is playing Lost City, so if that card comes down into play this turn, the one Sableye will be out of commission for the rest of the set.
Indeed. And we are seeing Arven get played, though, so no threat of Lost City. I don't think it was in the hand.
No.
But Eli also has a Turo scenario, so I feel like Eli has a really good price mapping here where Michael's down to 3 prize cards. There's only 2 prize Pokemon in play now as Eli sets up this other Charizard, and then he can Turo back the Rotom, and then eventually when the Charizard goes down, he can Iodo to 1. And Michael might have a little bit of trouble coming back from that. Yeah, taking down 2 full HP Charizards when you're at 3 prizes, that could be very, very difficult.
It's sort of that trade-off where you kind of have to respect knocking Pidgey out to shut the Pidgeot up, but you now also play into sort of the 7 prize game, as we like to call it, right? Where you're taking extra prizes when you could have technically knocked different things out. See how this comes to either help or go against Michael Pramawat as we reach 8 minutes left in Round 9 of San Antonio Regionals. And yeah, there's no support, but Charizard sort of is its own support with how hard it hits. Burning Darkness taking the knockout. Ely going down to 4 prize cards left. Michael, in his position, how do you push your aggression here? V-Star power yet to be used. Starting things off with the concealed cards. Does find a pivoting option. Does also have Colress's Experiment in the hand, and that will be the supporter of choice. Does still also have access to Pal Pad. We didn't see that card get played. What are the 5 cards here? Ooh, all cards that you want. I mean, the Nest Ball can go, but this last choice of what card to get rid of is going to be a little bit tough.
This definitely feels bad as Michael, right? Because you use Pokestop and you hit 2 Battle VIP passes. Why couldn't those be just a little deeper into the deck so you can actually not hit them and find them off of Colress? That's part of the risk, right? That's part of the risk that you have when playing these flower selecting decks. You tend to find really good cards because you only play really good cards in your deck.
And it's tough. Has to get rid of the Psychic Energy to keep the Mew around for later on. And I think the big issue here for Michael is you've already played 2 Super Rod. You've got 1 Super Rod in the Lost Zone, I believe. So I think you're down to just the final Super Rod available. It is just going to be the escape rope play. The other Charizard will come up. And here we go. Spit Innocently, 110, so setting up for next turn. As Ely, when is the correct turn to play this Turo scenario?
I would imagine this upcoming turn. Yeah, I would really like to see that instead of a potential Iono. And this is where not KOing that Cramorant might be less than ideal. Imagine if that Cramorant wasn't there. What is Michael even attacking with? Or you force a Super Rod resource at least.
Boss's orders going after Comfey, so neither Iono or the Turo scenario getting played, but now you leave Michael with a huge hand size.
Indeed. I mean, maybe Eli's favorite Pokemon is Cramorant, because that Cramorant has been on the board way too long, in my opinion. But yeah, I mean,
keeping it around to watch.
I mean, is Ely maybe thinking of using Turo on the Charizard? I feel like that would not be ideal. Michael Final Fantasy is doing Heavy Ball though, so he could potentially take a knockout on Dragonite this turn. I mean, on Charizard this turn, get down to 1 prize card, and then that's when Ely wants to use Iono, but he still has the liability of Rotom. If he had just 2-road back that Rotom, you force Michael to deal with 2 Charizards.
An interesting predicament. Let's see how it plays out. So, resources are running a little bit thin here for Michael. It's already down a lot of resources. Can play the Hisuian Heavy Ball, so that will find the Dragonite out of the prizes. And it actually looks like there's 2 Super Rod left in the deck, so my bad, only 1 being played so far, but it is in the prize card. So as of right now, the only 1 in hand is the last remaining until that is taken for the prizes.
We do see the Dragonite. Oh, there's, well, no, there's double Miraculate, so it's fine.
Okay, so maybe Michael's plan here is to try and win this game in 2 attacks. You can use this Dragonite, deal 250 damage, and if your opponent goes to 1 prize card, there's a perfect Pokemon still remaining for Michael.
Indeed, and Ely just used the boss's order, so if Michael just leaves the Mew EX powered up on the field, Ely could have trouble going after it. I don't know if you make that risk or if you make that call as Michael.
Yeah.
Definitely, like, that would be some insane hand-reading skills by Michael Pramawat.
I know you don't have boss. You don't have it like that. So it's interesting because, yes, the attacker gets powered up. You also get the benefit of having restart if you do get Iono to a low hand size. But the biggest issue, I feel like you have to play it down because if you don't, then your opponent's just going to Iono you to 1 and say, all right, well, you've got 1 turn to find a knockout on my 330 HP Charizard. If not, I win the game next turn.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh.
Oh, choosing neither, though.
Wow. So, oh, but this plays excellently into the Turo scenario here for Ely. Now, this card wasn't shown in Game 1 or Game 2, so I think Michael maybe just doesn't expect Ely to be playing this card in Charizard. It's not a super popular inclusion, but we're seeing here how it has its merit, its value, and can essentially heal 2 turns of damage off from Michael's side.
Now, do you do that, though? Because if Ely does that, and then that leaves Ely with only 1 Charizard, right? We do see that. But now this opens up the Mew EX play. Not this turn,
yes,
but the one after, because Ely will only have 1 Charizard. So even though, well, yeah, like even if
I think the issue still is, I mean, next turn you just play this Iono, you take the prize, and then you pretty much say, if you have it, you have it. But
Yeah,
at least
true.
this way you sort of play around that win condition. Because, I mean, look at it this way, too. With that Cramorant, I think what Michael was trying to do is not put himself in that 2-prize predicament. Next turn, you Sableye or your Cramorant again to take those final 2 prizes, and then pal pad back in your 2 supporters you want. But this route, maybe a little bit unexpected for Michael, having to change course and adapt to that Turo scenario being played.
Indeed. I mean, I wonder if he was factoring that in. But now Eli is ahead in the prize cards, has access to counter catcher as well. Michael has everything in his hand. He can do whatever he wants this turn.
And the only thing missing would be some sort of disruption. In Roxanne, of course, that did hit the lost zone, so it is unavailable. How do you map this turn out to secure yourself a victory here in this important win in it?
I mean, is there ever a world where you go Super Rod back, Cramorant, counter catcher, KO Charmander, put yourself at 2 prize cards, no 2 prize Pokemon in play, and then hope Eli doesn't Iono you? Eli did get a boss's orders off the prize cards, and I feel like he has been constantly distracted by the possibility to cost, right?
Yeah.
We saw that Cramorant didn't get KO'd for the first couple of turns. We saw the counter catcher avoid that Cramorant as well, so maybe getting that boss off the prize cards could be something bad if it distracts him from Ionoing Michael down to 2 cards.
I think you have to Sableye and take this prize, because you're still at 3, right? So you have to take 2 prizes this turn, because otherwise, attacking this Charizard doesn't really do anything, especially if there's one more rare candy. You just rare candy and you say, well, whatever you throw up next turn, I'm going to take a knockout on. So I think a big miss on Eli's side was not finding the Lost City that turn the Sableye came into play, right? Imagine if this Sableye is not there, right? Or if this Cramorant is in the Lost Zone instead. That card, specifically in this deck to deal with this Lost Zone deck and Gardevoir, not there when he needed it.
And Eli has the Lost City. He had it last turn. He
Oh,
chose
really?
not to play it. Yeah, it's in
Wow.
his hand right now.
I feel like you've seen your opponent play down multiple Lost Vacuums and multiple Pokestops.
Yeah.
That's a situation where you've always got to be keeping track of your opponent's resources to see what potential they have to stop your game plan.
Now, Michael being very cautious and not playing too many cards of the ones that he has. He's going to go counter catcher on that Charmander, which is that a mistake as well? Benching that Charmander, I don't know. We're going to see, I think we have to see the Iono here by Eli.
It's so tough. I feel like it just delays, though, the inevitable. Whether you bench it, maybe next turn was the time to bench that instead. You just let yourself get hit, and then you bench the Charmander next turn. But it's just such a hard ask to see this ahead. We see how small micro decisions can make or break such a tight match between 2 close competitors.
Indeed. Now,
oh, is he thinking about benching this? So this is where it comes down to, right?
Yeah.
You're sitting on an incredibly game-winning hand, but you have to make the read here. Does my opponent have boss? And I have to say, with how many cards Eli has left, I don't know. It's so tough because the reward for benching it and them not having boss is essentially game-winning, but the risk for benching it and them having it is game-losing.
Yeah. So which path do you take, right?
Neither.
Do you get Iono'd? Do you get Iono'd out of the Mew? Like, do you hope they don't have, or they have Iono and not boss, and then you pre-power up the Mew? Or do you hope they, do you assume they have boss and then you make yourself vulnerable to Iono? There's the Mew. Now,
we're seeing it come down.
there's the knockout.
And he
there's
has the
boss's
boss.
orders. That's
Wow.
gonna be it. Wow, what a game.
Turo scenario coming in clutch, but more importantly, the boss sealing things out. Ely Greenfield advancing to day 2.